Folks, welcome to the Saturday edition of Citizen Watch. You'll notice I say Saturday because we've moved. We're not on Tuesday or Wednesday night or Tuesday or Thursday night anymore. We're here coming to you on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. We were making that announcement last week in our shows. If you were able to hear, and we had a little recording issue, but we're here now on Saturday. We've made the move. You can listen to us at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Of course, we always have in studio Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti. He's irritated me already this morning. It's the first day of July as we record this, even though you won't hear us until the 5th. You'll be well into your 4th of July weekend.
You should be nicer.
Well, sometimes I just don't have my breakfast or my Wheaties early enough, and I've had
con crema down. What is it that you like?
Fresa con crema, strawberries and cream. But folks that didn't hear our shows last week,
missed much.
They missed some of the. Oh, now don't say that. It was interesting shows. We'll talk a little bit about what we talked about. But some new issues have come up, obviously. But again, we want to encourage folks to move with us over to Saturday mornings. You were used to hearing us at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. We've just moved an hour, 7 and 7. And of course, we have other great programming that precedes us and before us, after us rather, at KYOS. So we encourage people to listen. Just keep your radio glued to KYOS, folks. That's the bottom line. And if you miss a Citizen Watch episode, you can always go to YouTube and listen to us. Punch in KYOS space 1480 AM in the search bar. Listen to us anytime. I just want to let everybody know that we appreciate him having with us here on this hot weekend. It is going to be 108 before we get to the 4th of July weekend. I don't know what it's going to be like before that, but summer's definitely here. Water's an issue in the news. We saw where Gallo is suing MID over some water that they feel is theirs. I think that was an interesting story. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was a big blow in the paper. I'm surprised it hasn't got more press than it did. Was the loss of the AT&T call center out at Castle Commerce, Aviation Commerce and Development Center. I don't know what it's called. It's a big wasteland now, and it's going to be even more vacant with the loss of almost 400 jobs out there. They're going to be gone by the end of August. And the AT&T call center has been out there for almost 13, 14 years at Castle. I don't know if it was one of the anchor tenants, but I know it was a big one when they came there. It was a big feather in the county's cap when that came in, but evidently the economics at AT&T forces them to consolidate their operations, and Castle isn't in the plan. And those 400 people have been offered relocation benefits of $5,000 apiece to go to other areas. I understand other states, even though AT&T has 800 jobs in California, they're not the jobs that these people are going to be losing. So they're going to have to go to places like Idaho and forget where some of these other call centers are. So that's a big loss to the revenue of the county.
But did you read the perspective of the Sun Star?
I did read the perspective today. The interesting about how they talked about how the county holds up Google as a success, and they say, well, it's a vacant piece of land so they can operate their vehicles out there. And I don't know if you'd really count that as a success. But what part of the editorial were you talking about? Towards the end, Case,
it says AT&T's decision to consolidate its workforce brings into sharp focus the failure to brings in to sharp focus the failure to capitalize on a facility that was once believed to be the key for growing jobs for the entire region. It's been nearly 20 years, and Castle is still largely empty buildings and empty promises. Mark Hendrickson, the director of Merced's Aviation, Economic Development, Commerce, Aviation, and Economic Development, once called Castle's 1,912 acres of opportunity. Unfortunately, last Friday's announcement was news of opportunities lost.
That's right.
And I know that we're not supposed to be scathing towards these individuals who are in charge and all this kind of stuff, but it just goes here. Here is the Sun Star, that's saying that these were opportunities lost, okay? They are. And that there have been empty promises, and unfortunately, opportunities lost. I think Castle Airport is a waste. I don't think anybody's marketing it properly.
That's right.
I think maybe Darren McDaniels, we had him on, and he said that given a maybe a program to hustle around and try to get people, but we're not supposed to be,
He was talking about getting a master developer.
Yeah,
and
we're not
taking
supposed
that out of Hendrickson's hands.
But here's what's funny. Mark Hendrickson was economic whatever. Now he's the director of Merced's Department of Commerce, Aviation, and Economic Development.
Right.
I'm still appalled that here's a man that failed in his opportunities, and yet he got a better pay, better job, more responsibilities, and it just goes to show you that at the county, you don't get paid by what you do, but by what you know and who you know.
We've often talked about the Peter Principle, and we've been pretty critical of Mark Hendrickson and his missteps and his.
But this is, you and I have stated his missteps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and this
building
is
175 was a big misstep. Cost the county $500,000.
But here is just the Merced Star, which is always their buddy, the Politico's buddy.
Well, they try to paint the best picture.
Yes. Well, they say that, Mr. Hendrickson, this was bad.
Well, it brings up something, when I read that article, I couldn't help but hear the voices in the races talking about how they don't want any layoffs and they don't want any changes at the county. And you hear that at the city level too. And at what point, and we used to ask this question a lot, do you look at performance or lack of performance and you make some changes? And I would rather hear some of these
but it goes back
finalists
to
into the November election talk real turkey about some of the people we have in these positions that we're counting on not only bringing in new business, but how about keeping the ones we have, folks? One in the hand is better than two in the bush.
But remember when this call center went in?
Yes.
They had all these other buildings that this could be AT&T. It's cheap. It's labor. Here's my question. Those people are unionized.
Right. Well, yes, they are. There is a bargaining union over there at AT&T.
I guess that bargaining union wasn't very good. AT&T won that one, didn't they?
Well,
because let me ask you this. What would be cheaper? To take these, and this is what I heard, that these people, 488,
well, no, the 488, that includes Rancho San Miguel. If you look further up in the article, it's 394 at AT&T. Very first.
No, 397. Paragraph. You got it. Yeah. Okay, but if you look at 397 jobs, and they're going to somewhere else, and they say Southern California.
Well, yeah, potentially.
Okay, Southern California. Is it cheaper to live in L.A. or Merced?
Well, I read in the paper just the other day that if you lived in Los Banos, your $60,000 is like $100,000 in the Bay Area. So you have a $40,000 difference in buying power.
Exactly. And my point was, I remember when AT&T went in there, and I know Mr. Hendrickson was not part of that.
No.
And I remember with AT&T saying, with all these buildings, this could be the big AT&T thing. This is what we're looking for. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a friend of mine, Bill Schaefer, tells me that AT&T put another call center somewhere else. And I'm like, I thought the call centers were going to Atwater. And I was like, well, maybe it's just...
Had a problem finding qualified people. It's like when the prison went in, you have to pass a pretty strict background check. Obviously, when you're watching federal inmates, you have to have pretty good credit because they don't want you to be on the take.
I disagree with that.
Well, what do you mean? You disagree with what? The requirements?
No, I agree with the requirements. I love how companies... And this is the political...
What do you disagree with?
There's a real reason why AT&T left Atwater, and it wasn't that they couldn't find people.
Oh, you're getting to what I was going to say eventually, that AT&T couldn't find qualified people. Mm-hmm. What do you think the real reason is?
I think that the county and AT&T just couldn't get along on maybe some expansionism, maybe on some things. Maybe Mr. Hendrickson should be more forthcoming.
Maybe there's more to this story. Yeah, I mean, did they have a lease? Was the lease up? I don't know.
No, and
that's a big building. I'll tell you, a lot of juice to run a call center like that. You got some, it's more than a couple of telephone lines and a desk. I mean, 400 people answering calls, and it kind of goes to what Castle is good for. We've talked about heavy industry and, shipping nuts via air freight. And what AT&T was basically a big building with a couple of heavy trunk lines of communication and sit there and make phone calls. And
bam, voila, 400 jobs.
Run 400 jobs. And it's kind of like what we see in Patterson with Restoration Hardware, who's been confirmed as the tenant now, another 400 jobs. I was wrong. Robert thought it was going to be Tesla, and I said it was going to be Walmart.
No. Yes, that is
But
true. But
it
the
was
original bet
restriction.
was.
I said it was Walmart.
And I said, absolutely not.
Absolutely
You said, $5.
Anyway, the bottom line is that these are
Opportunities lost.
Opportunities lost, and I think Mr. Hendrickson has some splaining to do to the board.
He won't.
And I always wonder why the board or Mr. Hendrickson is the economic. I mean, look at all those titles behind his name. Go out there, break suction. Go talk to AT&T and say, hey, what's your future plans? Can we make life a little easier for you here in the vast plains of the valley? And maybe they did that, but I want to know what they did. That's why I see nothing except an editorial from the Sun Star talking about opportunities lost. Well, what did we do?
I don't think they want us to know.
I don't think
and here's
so
my
either.
question also.
And
how do you get these? Look, Mark Hendrickson was with the chamber.
Oh.
He moved the chamber.
Well, before that, he was with Pacific Gas and Electric.
But they went from $1 rent to $3,000 a month rent and almost bankrupted them.
Well,
he goes out to get. Wait a minute.
Heady times. They were making lots of juice back then.
He goes to Castle. Nothing gets done.
No.
We lose everything. We don't
he was
get
at Castle for a while. His
at
headquarters
Castle.
were at Castle.
And the two big contracts.
Right.
Okay, that are at Castle, which as UC Merced was written, the contract was written by an underling, and according to Jim Price and Stan Thurston, they're responsible for bringing the forestry department. Okay.
Yes.
So what did Mr. Hendrickson do? Well,
Google.
His explaining, he should be an attorney. He should be the public defender because when you can defend a track record and land a bigger, better, and look at this. He's the director of Department of Commerce. Are you serious?
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of commerce going on here in Merced, and this just begs, I can't help but think about the Walmart distribution center and all those folks, this Kyle Stockard Channing's, or no, Stockard Channing, that's a movie star, isn't it? Kyle Stockard and the SWAT and the Marge, the
But here's where
Walmart Action Team or whatever it was. These folks that didn't want these jobs. Are you happy?
But here's my question, Casey.
400 people not going to AT&T, driving their polluting cars over there to Castle.
That's not the point. The point to me is that Castle Air Force Base was a opportunity. It was huge opportunity. There's land there, plentiful.
Like I said, 1,900 acres.
Mr. Hendrickson, under his tutelage, has allowed 30, 40, 50% of those buildings to be ripped off, dilapidated, raped. Okay.
No copper,
no wiring, no nothing.
Gone.
They have to be
vandalized
to the point where you can't even put homeless people in.
And what's left is asbestos and lead and paint that you wouldn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
But Lee Anderson
tried, and he got us into $50 million of monitoring or millions of dollars in monitoring in the next 50 years.
But my question is why don't the people?
Those are tear downs. McDaniel had it right. Turn it over to a master developer. Google has it right. Use it as a test track. It's Death Valley over there. It's really going to be Death Valley after August. You can get some lumber and some bridge cranes. I think that's about the only thing they've got going on out there. We lost the Challenger Learning Center years ago when the county decided to charge them $500,000. I mean, it was just the missteps out there have been one after another after another. I'd like some more explanation on why this happened.
You won't get it.
Do about it. The impact to Atwater has got to be devastating. They just came out with their city budget, $2,000 extra in the bank. Now, if you're the city, if that's your own household, that's pretty thin to have $2,000 in savings to run a multi-million-dollar enterprise. So, the other thing we talked about a little bit previously was Mi Pueblo closing.
Why don't they do this?
Yes.
Why don't they stop playing horsey poo with all these individuals and hire real people to do the situation?
Well, they do.
Instead
they really
of
need to hire an economic developer.
Instead of allowing my buddy who has a degree in animal husbandry.
Nice guy.
Nice
guy, but do we need nice guys? We need people with horsepower. We need people with contacts. It's like we've heard from Mr. Price about the aviation angle. You need somebody in the if you're going to attract aviation customers, you need somebody in the aviation industry that has the contacts that can bring those people in,
or even have the rhetoric.
Bring those FBOs in, and
when you're sitting down,
or the rhetoric, exactly, can talk the walk. Not this. Oh, it was a great leadoff double. That was a solid single. If I hear one more sports analogy term from Hendrickson to try to justify some accomplishment out there. Well, Mark, this was a strikeout. It was a failure.
A K.
Yeah, this was
wait. Now, in this, you put a K when a guy strikes you out.
Right.
You put a backwards K when you're caught looking. Okay. And this is a backwards K. But the situation is nobody in Merced wants to be critical because they're nice guys. We got to work with them.
Right.
We got to deal with them. But the point of the matter, I think the day has come where we need to be critical and we need to hold them accountable.
We do. Performance, folks, it's really based on performance. And we have 400 people between me, 500 between Mi Pueblo and the AT&T call center that are leaving. We've also, talked about maybe Kmart closing. Folks, we're coming up to our first break. We'll be right back on Citizen Watch, KYOS AM 1480, Saturday morning. Stay with us. Folks, welcome back to the second segment of Citizen Watch on Saturday here in July. Man, is it hot. I don't know how Robert's geese are doing. He's going to have to get a bigger pool. Those babies are getting big.
But they will not be as big as you.
Yeah, well, thank you. So nice of you. We have in studio, of course, the Velvet Sledgehammer. I'm Casey Steed, and give my hearts back there, 4 states away with everybody. You know, my son, one of my 3 sons. I call him my son. I don't know if they call me dad, but he graduated a couple of weeks ago. I was very proud of that. Went back for that, and he turned 21 last week. I congratulated him on the radio over that, but I don't know if he heard. Our shows last week were not on YouTube, so if you're looking for those, you won't find them. But anyway, happy 21st birthday. Very proud of what you're doing. And
is it Brian? What's his name?
His name's Tristan. Hopefully.
Happy birthday, Tristan.
Yeah, so I was
July 1st, huh?
No. His birthday was last week, June 25th, a month before mine. So you figure that out. I'll be July 25th.
So you're July 26th?
25th, a month. He was June 25th.
Yeah, but some months have 31 days.
No, this June only had 30. Anyway, folks, we're here in Studio C. If you miss any of our shows, you can go to YouTube. You can punch in KYOS space 1480 AM in the search bar. Listen to all of our old shows. I do have some exciting things about, I found out there's a local TV station here in town, or not TV station, but folks that are filming a local news program, and they've talked about maybe pairing up with Citizen Watch and doing some things, which is very exciting.
Who?
And
I never heard this. Why didn't
I told you a little bit about this, Matthew.
That
was going on, but we'll see how that goes. But one of the things they covered, and I was talking to the gentleman about, was over there at the Merced Theater, there was an incident. I went to the first Ralphie May concert way back when. I don't know when he first came to town. It was last year sometime. And if anybody doesn't know Ralphie May, he's kind of an overweight, portly comedian who's maybe a little bit past his mainstream prime, but folks that remember him still like him. And he had a really nice show at the Merced Theater after they first opened. He was late getting there, I remember, and he made a joke about there being a wildfire and having to take detours, and it was very funny. But he ended up staying an extra 2 hours, and it was just a fantastic performance. And, of course, the venue is very nice. Well, I guess he came back to town again, and there was another Ralphie May performance over there, and a fight broke out. And this probably wouldn't really get much play, except it was the son-in-law of Norm Andrade, who's our police chief. And unfortunately, the victim, Mr. Klein, was hit several times by Mr. Andrade's son-in-law. I don't know if he hit Mr. Andrade's son-in-law or not, but it was kind of a mutual combat situation. Police came. Nothing was really done at that point. Medical treatment was refused. A few days later, Mr. Klein checked himself into the hospital and subsequently died a couple of weeks later. Coroner went through his process and determined that the injuries were a result of the altercation with Mr. Andrade's son-in-law and not as a result of something else. Now, I understand that Mr. Klein fell outside the theater after this fight. I understand that both parties had been drinking. Alcohol was involved. I understand that they were with large groups, and kind of the mob mentality took over. Evidently, somebody was upset about somebody talking during the performance, and, can't have that, Anyway, very, very sad situation. So people have said that, or inferred, that this is a cover-up. that Larry Morse, the DA, is covering it up, that Norm Andrade, because it's his son-in-law, why did it take so long? And, I take just the opposite view of this. And knowing a little bit about investigations, I think that they're being very, very thorough. If you put yourself in the position of Mr. Andrade's son-in-law, a guy that dies 2 weeks later after a fight that you had with him, how do you know it was what the actions that you caused? Now, obviously, the coroner is giving his opinion that it was. That'll be challenged in court. But I think they've been very cautious to not charge Mr. Andrade's son-in-law up until this point to make sure they have their ducks in a row. And Larry's going to look at the evidence. The DA's office is going to look at the evidence and decide whether or not to go forward with this case. If he doesn't go forward with the case, that does not mean there's a cover-up. That means that the evidence is very hard to prove.
How do we know?
Well, I think that just by the basis of the facts. This isn't
no.
where the guy dropped dead on the floor of the Merced Theater.
No, you're missing what I was going to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, what I was going to ask you. I'm playing devil's advocate because here's a problem that we have with our local government and our local politicians.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, people are suspicious.
Exactly. And I'm suspicious of all of this because there's a common thread that runs through all of this, and that's the person happens to be related to somebody who is a public official.
And that's what the concern is. I think there was an incident years ago over
who's trying the case? Whoa. Who's trying the case?
Well, nobody's trying the case.
Who's the attorneys?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
No, tell the public. Who's the attorney?
Mr. Andrade has retained
Mrs. Morse?
No, Fife? His brother, Neil. And there is the county would be the other attorney, but they haven't. And that's when you come from a family of attorneys, you're going to have those situations.
Of course, you're going to.
And again, it lends that air of maybe there's some
and
internal
this is the
workings.
Point.
But I disagree with that. My point.
Casey,
go ahead.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Larry Morse, I believe, is a very honorable person.
Yes.
But this Rudy. Let me go back. The Rudy Buendia, let's pull because
That's something people probably missed on our last show.
Right. Is that Larry is going to pull. Go ahead and explain.
Go. I'm just saying, give the people.
The problem is that there was a situation with Firm Build, and Rudy Buendia has been running around town telling everybody he's innocent, and I think he has that right. What happened is that you've missed it on our last show because of some programming difficulties. But what had happened basically was he ran out of money. Mr. Buendia ran out of money to defend himself, and he took a plea bargain in the course of things. Larry Morse has decided that maybe we should pull the plea bargain because I don't want to get an innocent man. Bull. Here's the deal. It was a plea bargain. It's a win for you. It's a win for them. He says he understands what the ramifications are, but I'm innocent. Does that give you the right to pull the plea deal because you think? And let's not forget that a week prior to this, there was an altercation between Larry and some people who had some discussions, and they tried the case, standing in the middle at 11:30 at night at the fair.
Tried it in the court of public opinion, and I think this is where Larry has had it with the Buendia case. But I think what your point was is Larry's a fair man.
He is.
And I think he's going to look fairly at the Andrade situation, pulling it back
to... But people are going to question it because it's Larry Morse.
And it's Norm Andrade's son-in-law. And maybe they should. But I guarantee you the scrutiny is on it, and I don't think that what we've seen so far, I don't think the delay in charging, I mean, again, it took 2 weeks for this situation to manifest itself in this guy's death. I was going to talk about just briefly a situation that happened at the Trail's End, another local watering hole years ago. People know it now as the Partisan. And it used to be called the Trail's End, and it was owned by a man named Eddie Freitas. And they used to have a lot of people that went in there and drank because it was a bar. And one night there was a fight between a couple of bikers, and Eddie's son got in the middle of it and tried to break it up because he was part owner of the bar, and he took a punch to the head and fell down and hit his head, and took a period of time, and unfortunately he passed away. And the person that hit him was was tried for his crime. Now, that was something that happened right there. He fell down in the bar. There was no question about what happened. It was fairly clear cut. This situation, taking 2 weeks and what happened in between, I think that's where there's been a time lag, and why there's been a time lag.
Well, I don't have a problem with that at all.
But some people don't understand that, I think.
Some people don't understand a lot of things.
Well,
Some people don't understand that they need to get out and vote. Some people don't understand what recycling means.
Right.
Some people don't understand what a turn signal is for, okay? And the situation is people act in a manner of which you would probably make a judgment call on their intelligence.
Well,
but we can't do that. So what we do instead is we sit there and scratch our head and go, really?
Yeah.
And the problem is we're becoming politically correct and more politically correct, more politically correct. And yet we have things that were in the paper. You want to complain about Larry Morse. You want to complain about, well, it took 2 weeks. How about this, people? How about you get off your duffs and you complain about that CalPERS CEO is going to plead guilty, okay? And that what they did is that Wall Street and his buddies probably charged CalPERS millions of dollars in extra investment management fees to make up for the commissions that they paid this man named Villalobos. Yeah. The problem is you've got Calderon. The problem is we have all this
Villalobos
gunk
that we have down in LA.
And the problem is we scratch our head and go, I don't understand. Now, locally, it's going to become a real eye-opener. What's going to happen in the sheriff's race?
Oh, the sheriff's race. That's another one. It's
what's going to happen in the
Have you noticed all the signs are down?
They're not. I see some.
It's funny. I wouldn't take my sign down if I was in the
Johnny
runoff.
Teixeira's sign is the one I see everywhere.
Johnny Teixeira.
But the point of the matter is this is exactly it. People have just said, I've had enough. And I'm getting to the point where I think I'm just going to go home and just play with my geese and say, you know what? I am tired of this garbage that we have to deal with, okay? And nobody has the audacity, nobody has the cojones, nobody has the backbone to say anything about it.
You're right.
Because they're public officials and we have to be nice. Now, I understand that. But the point of the matter is, when things like this happen with Norm Andrade's stepson, or son-in-law. It has nothing to do with Norm Andrade.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay, when you got Larry Morse,
he's a grown man.
You got Larry Morse is going to try the case probably against his brother. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to happen. Okay,
right, and it happens all the time.
But the things we should complain about, Castle Air Force Base dying because our leaders did nothing. That is what we should really be paying attention to. Those 488 jobs that Atwater just lost. Yeah. And they have the audacity to say, well, it was less than 1% of all the jobs.
Well, the jobs created in the county, I think that's somewhat disingenuous. And you look at the type of jobs they compared to farm worker jobs. Those were pretty good jobs. Not to say that farm working jobs aren't good. I mean, any job's a job, but it was the type of jobs we need, manufacturing industry. But
all these fines and all this hanky-panky, and nobody seems to have a problem with it. Nobody seems to have a problem nobody wants to question and make the hard questions. Like you said.
I hear the frustration in your voice.
AT&T, why did you really leave?
Yeah, why did you really leave?
Mark, I don't want to hear your painted rhetoric.
Yeah,
John, I don't want to hear your painted rhetoric.
My best friend she's always told me that, it's very frustrating, and to try to change things, you're really going against the tide.
But that's the point.
I understand why you say you want to just go and play with your geese.
But the point is the tide is leading us nowhere.
That's why we need change.
I read books that California was the golden city. Oh my God, it was phenomenal. California of the opportunities, and now it is nothing but rust, gunk. Corruption. The problem is I'm on Craigslist with my brother. He needs a job, and he says, hey, Rob, maybe I should move to South Dakota. They had a thing on Craigslist about all the jobs in South Dakota.
Same way with Oklahoma and Texas, the fracking, the energy industry, and all of the related industry. And this is the thing when we talk about AT&T and Castle. The guy that has that little deli out there,
he's in trouble.
How do you think he feels? How do you think the
folks... It had nothing to do with it.
How do you think the little gas stations there on Buhack, or I forget what the stoplights there would head out of
Crown
town?
Royal place, yeah.
Yeah, you get that check. It's Friday. You always stop, maybe cash your check or get a lottery ticket.
How do you think
those people feel? It's terrible.
But the point is, Casey, it starts at the top.
Well, it does, and this is why Hendrickson and these guys. That's why I was thinking when I read this article. It just I don't want any layoffs. We got a good team. This is the people we have.
You knew it was coming.
I just, folks, we don't have a good team. I'm sorry to say. I'll be the first to say it. We need changes. We need a shakeup. We need to do something different. Michael Bowomany You're prophetic.
What a great...
We
no,
had
wait,
him-
do me a favor. Use a different word, because on the radio it sounds like you say pathetic.
Okay. Well, he's not pathetic. I'll tell you who's pathetic is John Bramble. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm not supposed to say these kind of words, but I'll tell you what. Were you not to listen to Mr. Bewomany about wanting to bring in 500 and some odd acres into the county industrial park
because
ahead
of a lawsuit?
Because it might cost money. What do look what's happening in our county. Let's get ahead of the curve. Let's try something different.
Here's the problem, Case.
And this is where Bewomany sees this. Look what's happening in Tracy. Look what's happening in Patterson. We just talked about American Restoration Hardware, 400 jobs, good jobs.
Who are they?
The biggest warehouse in Stanislaus County under one roof is being built as we speak.
So there must be
ripping
something.
the peach trees out and putting this warehouse in.
But there must be something of value that they see coming to the Central Valley, whether it's transportation
that's
routes.
what it is. They're close to Interstate 5. We got Interstate 5 running through our county. I hate to tell you.
We got Interstate 99.
And we got 99
and
too.
59.
And we have some
which
railroads.
is 152 and goes to the coast.
Exactly. And this is where we
and the
need to
biggest
capitalize on
runway.
our successes, folks. And I think the people that we put in the position to capitalize on these successes are wrong. We need to change. And
you and I need to get those jobs.
We do. Folks, stay with us into the third and final segment, into the first show of July on our new time on Saturday morning.
Happy birthday, Tristan.
And happy birthday, Tristan, 21. I'll tell you, after...
Okay.
You know what the milestones are now? 30, 40, and 50.
Let's go.
Hey, we got to go. We'll be right back, folks. Folks, welcome to the third and final segment on our first show in July, on our first Saturday in July in our new time.
So how was your fireworks? Since this is Saturday, how was your fireworks on Friday? Was it good?
My safe and sane, legal-only fireworks? I don't know. I haven't been to the stands yet. I was amazed at some of the money these folks make at these fireworks stands. It's kind of like you and I at the beer booth. It's a once-a-year deal.
Really well, by the way.
And I'm glad. OLM, I appreciate you inviting me to participate. I had a lot of fun.
He was slow, folks.
I was slow, but I was thorough. But I love dealing with people.
You did a great job with the people, and thank you very much. And OLM thanks you. You did a great job with the money and calling out the...
Boy, we had so much money. I kept handing Robert wads of 20s and 100s.
We didn't make that much.
Well, but
folks.
I'm just saying it was...
It's not normal. Yeah,
for one person with a little apron, it was a lot of money.
Well, yeah.
And there was probably, 1,000 people that came to the booth. But it was a lot of fun. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but...
Saturday in the park.
Saturday in the park.
4th of July, folks.
4th of July.
Happy
the
birthday,
fireworks
America.
stands. How much money these folks make. A lot of times, or a lot of these places, this is their one time a year to make their, for band and practices. And this one guy was on the TV station, goes, man, we made $39,000 in one day. And I'm like, holy moly.
Wait, but that's always wrong.
Well, the way they do it, I guess half goes to the fireworks company and half goes to them. But anyway, folks, it is 4th of July weekend, and we did move. We're not on, there's no Tuesday and Thursday night shows anymore.
They found that out.
The gig is up. They took our keys away. We can't come in on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, but we can come in on Saturday and on YouTube all the time.
What's happening with Merced?
What's happening with Merced besides the loss of 400 jobs?
I'm going to tell you what's going on.
What?
You are going to see a big change in this town, and UC Merced is going to own this town.
Well,
stock and barrel.
I've heard that downtown. I heard they got their eyeballs on downtown.
Nope.
What?
They bought a building.
Downtown.
They bought that acreage across the street from the city. Remember, they were going to make a big Taj Mahal.
Oh, there's going to be a hotel with a water fountain.
Yeah, remember that?
Oh, I remember that.
Well, now it's going to be a UC Merced building.
Yeah, well.
And the problem is...
Maybe they'll deal with the contaminated soil. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that.
What I want to know is John Bramble and Diaz going to be over there pitching a fit about there's a possibility of a lawsuit?
Well, it's a good, why we can't do it. Let me tell you, the university has juice. Unfortunately, folks, it sure isn't our juice.
Wait.
It's our money. It's our tax dollars.
He said juice.
Money.
I know, but you have to stop because sometimes when you listen,
they have the money. They've got the coin in this town. There's 10 university.
You don't have to worry about how to make it.
No, they know how to spend it.
It's government.
Government and it's prevailing wage, and those are good jobs. But that's another story for another day. One of the things I've gotten several phone calls about, and I wanted to talk about just a minute. I don't know if Rob has an opinion on this. Parsons Avenue. Man, I get more people calling the tip line, which again, let me give that number out. It's 209-406-8728. That's 209-406-8728. 8728. That's our tip line here at Citizen Watch. You can call in anytime, leave a tip, idea for a story, a criticism, a comment, tell me where to go.
Water.
Yeah, if you got some extra water, I could use it. Irrigated for the first time this last week, folks.
Yep.
Get 1.5 feet this year. I'll tell you, every drop was precious.
But did you see what happened about the drought?
No.
Okay, in yesterday's paper.
No.
Okay, it said drought's latest casualty.
What's that?
And I'm getting
Martini Farms.
Martini Farms, and what's happening is these. Okay, here's where the problem is.
Well, our
And
own Piccolo Farms, I think, has some issues.
You have a problem with water, so what do? So instead of going to the row crop, you put in record amounts of almond acreage.
There
which
you
takes
go.
A ton of water. Okay, and it says that there was 860,000 acres this year. There was 840,000 last year, and 10 years ago, there was only 570,000 acres of almonds. And the situation is people are saying, hell with this, hell with these water issues. Let's go to a tree.
It's profit.
And it's profit. And the point of the matter is they're going to screw the pooch. They're going to find themselves in a pickle.
This is what I'm afraid we're doing. We're going to have our own little dust bowl here. You know, the folks in Oklahoma didn't get it years ago when they overcultivated, overfarmed. And, we have our own situation underneath us, below our feet, with our aquifer and our water and our geology. And
again, nobody does anything.
Well, again, we're late on the bubble. The county. I've heard John Pedroso, who I think I don't know if we're going to be hearing him anymore, but he wants
to come on our show.
John, and we'll get you scheduled. We have a lot of interest in our show now. But anyway. He was mentioning that the county is struggling with a water ordinance, and what they're struggling with is private property rights versus what's right.
Let's do this together.
Sure.
Go ahead, Case.
Well, that's what they're struggling with.
That's what they're struggling with. Why are they struggling with it? Because you got a guy like James Fincher, an attorney, that is worried about a lawsuit. So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Do other counties have a problem?
No, because they've already had ordinances in place.
Okay, so why...
All the counties around us, Madera, Stanislaus, you know how many counties abut us? Remember that map they had down at 510 Bistro? I think it was 6 counties abut us. San Benito, Madera, Stanislaus,
Monterey,
Mariposa, Monterey. I know we were surprised. Mariposa. Anyway, all of the counties around us have a water exportation ordinance where you can't mine water and send it out of their county.
Did they have to go past attorneys? Did they have to go past attorneys to get that done?
Well, I'm sure they did.
Okay, so why is it that our two guys, Fincher and Diaz, present more roadblocks for Merced to do
Bramble
anything?
and Brown, we can't.
No. Wait, you're putting the cart before the horse.
Well, I know what you're saying.
Okay, what we have is we have 2 attorneys that are supposed to be what? Advisors.
That's right.
They run the show.
Keep us out of trouble.
Because what they do is they go to John Bramble and they go to Jerry Brown.
Jim Brown.
Well, Jim's dad's name is Gary. And anyways, he's a great guy. Yes. But anyways, you got these guys,
right?
And anybody can sue anybody with $40 and a piece of paper.
You're exactly right.
So what do? We put the world on hold in Merced County for fear of a lawsuit.
I know.
We have to do this. You can't do that because it's state law. How did the other Jim Fincher get off your butt and tell us how to do it and not how we can't do it? Greg Diaz, tell us how to do it and not how not to do it, because what you get is guys like Mr. Brown and Mr. Bramble that will defer to you and let you take over and let you run the show with your fears of lawsuits. Do your job. Be a good attorney. Kick their butt in court.
What was that? What was interesting about Mr. Bawomany, Michael Bawomany, council member Bawomany, when he would do Mr. Diaz's job and say, "Here, why don't you try it this way?"
But here's the thing about Mike Bawomany. He worked in the school district. I'm not happy with Mike and what he did to the school district and how...
Well, he was a good soldier. He'll tell you.
But what he did at Tracy...
Yes.
is being replicated in Patterson.
Yeah.
And he wants to replicate it here. But you got Jim.
Right.
You got John Bramble.
The one off-ramp we have that can be developed, because Robert's analogy of our geology or topography.
We're high.
We have this elevated freeway that runs through town. Unless you blow
and it doesn't
off
touch down.
Yeah, it doesn't touch down only
till Atwater almost, right? Okay.
Right.
So you got Franklin Road, and they're going to put an interchange there.
Right.
But you know what's really amazing? This was all done, and it's all been done faster than the Bradley Overpass.
Oh, my God, the Bradley Overpass. We talked about last week.
He's making a career on that.
They were taking the false work down. I joked that it's probably only about 3 years away from completion.
Somebody told me that they built it too short.
To be honest with you, I still don't have to figure out how they're going to transition to McKee there. If they have a left-hand turn lane there from the center onto McKee, well, just start watching the flower vases. And
we see so many different things wrong in a week.
Yes.
That
we can't cover it. And now we're only down to one show.
You know me, I have I like to jump from topic to topic, and the situation to me
let's keep on water. Interesting in the paper. Now, this show, we're recording on Tuesday, folks, just to let you know. And so the perishability of some of these subjects, who knows what's going to happen to me between now and then. But one of the things that came in the paper today was Gallo, our own local success story here in town. And I'm not talking about Ernest and Julio.
We're talking, wait.
I'm talking about Joseph Gallo.
Cattle Company.
Joseph Gallo, Mike Gallo, the heir.
Cheese.
Yeah, those guys.
Joseph Gallo Farms.
Success story here in this county.
How many awards did they win with their green
green
handling
energy
wastewater and stuff?
That's right. They're turning cow farts into energy, folks. Let me tell you.
Can't use that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're turning flatulence, cow flatulence into cow flatulence into energy over there at Gallo Farms, and it's a really a good thing what they're doing here in our county. But they're suing MID over some perceived water rights they've had to a thing called the Livingston Drain. It's basically a big ditch that excess irrigation water has flowed into since the 1900s, and the Gallo family has used that water. I agree with
Gallo. They used the water from 1918 to 2003.
Sick. Yeah, I would think it was even later. And then
somebody put a dam up without letting them know.
Well, interesting enough, one of the MID directors put a dam up and started buying that water from MID. Now, again, I don't think there should be any free water, but if there was some existing rights there, sometimes, as you know, Robert, when you do things for a period of time, kind of like our own
implied consent,
UP estates, they get a right to be there, squatters' rights, if you will. So anyway, Mr. Gallo is taking this issue to court. The trial's supposed to be done by July 25th, my birthday, and hopefully we'll have a resolution.
Happy birthday, Tristan.
To his was June 25th, but he'll have it resolved to this issue. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, what is your take on it?
This is what I found very interesting. Mr. Gallo's lawyer said, Mr. Gallo is here today because water is power and water is valuable. And folks, that is the most lucid statement in this trial so far, because that tells us why we're really here. Water is power.
But here's the thing about
water is valuable.
Right, but here's the thing. When they release the water and it goes down these drains, you can never get it back.
Right.
So there's somebody at the end of the system that gets the runoff.
That's Gallo.
Okay, in this situation in Livingston, it's Gallo. Normally, it's the Pacific Ocean. So here, instead of it flowing to Pacific Ocean and out to sea, Mr. Gallo, Mike, ends up being at the end of the trail, and he gets all of the whatever's left.
That's exactly right, and he has for years. I've actually seen that drain. I had a friend that worked out there at the hog barns. He has hog ranches. He has a cheese farm.
He has everything. But anyways,
dairy. And it's interesting.
But somebody put a dam up.
Yeah, that water, it would go to waste. Now, the question is, should he pay for it? Even if it's a reduced rate. And I don't know what the right answer is. Very interesting problem, but that statement, water is power and water is valuable.
Well,
and what has Mark Twain always said? Whiskey is for fighting in California. Water is for fighting over.
Whiskey's for drinking.
Whiskey's for drinking. I'm sorry. Water's for fighting.
But here's my point to you. John Swigard knows that water's power.
That's right. Mr. Jensen had no comment on Mr. Gallo's comment.
Those three, well, and that's the chicken way out of it things.
Well,
okay, come on. Wait,
he has to protect his position.
You have it protected. Okay.
Yeah.
You have a stance.
Yeah.
Say your stance.
Right.
And the problem is we're paying guys like Jensen and North and all these guys to make a statement. And when you say no statement, well, why'd you hire the guy?
Excuse me. I just realized that I kind of got off my subject about Parsons Avenue. I know that I started off this segment talking about it, and I don't know how we got off the subject, but I just want to let people know that I've had a lot of people call me about Parsons Avenue and expressing their frustration that the city is continuing down this road with purchasing property, talking about putting this bridge across McKee. Is it really going to be a street that's worthwhile with all those houses backing up onto it, going past three schools? Pete Padilla, who was in here, interviewed by Citizen Watch, and his unfortunately unfortunately unsuccessful run for city council, has asked the city council to bring this issue up. They're going to at their next meeting and talk about this. What I think the answer to this problem is
scrap it.
Well, I agree with all the residents that this is money being, our money should be directed to the campus parkway. What Josh wants to do with this Tiger grant, if it doesn't come through, let's take what little dollars trickle in, screw Parsons, let's put it over there on campus parkway.
Make money.
Like Robert said, I think that's where I got lost as we talked about campus parkway. Anyway, the bottom line is Parsons Avenue is wrong, but you got to get it redesignated from a major arterial to just a regular collector street, a regular street, because as long as it's designated a major arterial, this is how the money flows to these things, folks. It's like a formula. It's a program. And the state says, oh, we'll give you money for major arterials. Parsons Avenue is a major arterial.
Here's Grant.
Pete, those residents over there, I feel for you. I'm with you, but you got to get the city council to do something different. This plan about Parsons was made 40 years ago when Merced was a different animal.
And instead they went McKee.
That's right. There was no life east of McKee. Now people realize that it's going to go all the way to Campus Parkway. So I'm hopeful that the residents will get what they want out of the city council.
You know why it won't happen?
Why? It should. It's common sense.
Greg Diaz is afraid to
Greg
sue.
I've heard one of the residents called Hub over there. He's the supervisor for District 2. And I can't do anything. It's, it's city, I'm county. Again, folks, if we all rode this, you hate it. It's the biggest cop out in the world. But if we all start rowing the boat in the same direction, Hub sits on McCagg. This is where our transportation dollars come. This is where they flow. He can do something. Even if he writes a letter, it means something on that county letterhead. It certainly did on the CalPERS letterhead.
Certainly did for Miss Porras.
Robert, that's why we call you the Velvet Sledgehammer.
Well, it did, didn't it?
It's a great analogy. But folks, we're coming up to the end of our new Saturday time slots. Again,
and let's apologize to people for talking very fast and jumping.
Yes,
but we are used to having two shows, and now we have one, and we have time constraints, so we have to be quick, fast, and we can't be luxurious.
Right, and we'll try to squeeze in on other shows too if we can. But folks, thank you for listening to Citizen Watch on this new Saturday time slot, 7 and 7.
And listen to the Bear at 92.5. What a nice station we have.
Listen to our other stations. We have
they get to say things I can't.
4 other great stations that we have. Well, different format. But folks, this has been Casey Steed, the Velvet Sledgehammer, Robert Tomasetti. My love goes out to all those that I missed.
Happy birthday, Tristan.
Happy birthday, Tristan, and Lena, I love you. I hope everybody's doing well.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.